Let's dial back the clock to 2016, where 13-year-old Nicole Lovell is living with her mother, Tammy Weeks. January 27th, 2016 came as such a shock to Nicole's family. Tammy went into Nicole's room to get her up for school, but when she went to open Nicole's door, she noticed it was stuck. Nicole had pushed her nightstand in front of the door so Tammy couldn't get in.
Whoa.
When she finally got the dresser moved out of the way and into Nicole's room, Tammy saw that the window was open. Tammy spent the day calling Nicole, but her phone was going straight to voicemail. So Tammy started calling Nicole's friends. They all said they hadn't seen or heard from her either. So Tammy goes to the police later that afternoon and tells them, hey, my daughter is missing. So they begin searching the area and scanning Nicole's house for clues that same day. And that's when Tammy gets a tip from one of Nicole's friends' parents. When your daughter was over the other day, she mentioned that she was going on a date with someone, but I don't know who. 1,200 people show up to look for Nicole. Volunteers bring drones to help with the search. And 2 days after that, local police finally get a call. And that call is saying Nicole has been found 90 miles away.
Whoa, that's far.
Along a highway in Surrey County, North Carolina, right on the border of Virginia. Someone found Nicole's lifeless body. She, at 13, had been stripped of her clothes and left on the side of the road. An autopsy determines she had been stabbed 14 times with a fatal blow to the neck. But what this means for police is Nicole's missing persons case is officially a homicide investigation. And luckily for them, they actually already have someone in custody. And they quickly found something interesting in Nicole's bedroom. Now, inside her closet, Nicole had actually etched something into the door. It was a message that said, "I love David." And so Tammy tells police, since she knew Nicole was being bullied at school, she suspected that whoever she snuck out to meet that night, probably to go on a date with, was someone she most likely met online. And not from school. So immediately, police log into Nicole's accounts to see if they can track her messages. And they find one app that Nicole had been using a lot in the days before her disappearance. It was an anonymous messaging app called Kik. And what they find is that over the last several months, Nicole had been messaging a lot with a user that was going by the name Dr. Tombstone. They find that it matches with what Nicole had written in her closet, the "I love David," because it turns out Dr. Tombstone is actually an 18-year-old Virginia Tech freshman. So Virginia State Police and the FBI pay a little visit to David's dorm room the day after Nicole is reported missing. And what they learn is that on the night Nicole snuck out and disappeared, Jeremy noticed David putting on these big rain boots, even though it wasn't raining outside, and he left. And he didn't come back to the dorm until after 2 a.m. that night. So obviously the next step in the investigation is tracking David down. And they actually find him and bring him in for questioning later that day. Now, during that interview, David admits he was talking to Nicole on Kik. And he did go meet up with her at her home the night she went missing. But he says the second she snuck outside her window and he saw her, he realized that she had been lying to him about her age. So when she comes outside and he sees her, he claims he left immediately before they even hung out. So as I mentioned, it showed that she and David had been speaking for months and that they had met at least one other time before that night. Meaning David's story about showing up and seeing her for the first time and realizing she lied and leaving, it didn't track because he came over a second time to see her. So the day after Nicole's body was found on January 31st, police searched David's 2008 Lexus. And in the trunk of that car, they discovered blood stains on the carpet, blood on a snack wrapper, and a package of cleaning wipes. And perhaps the most damning in the car, a shovel with blood on the handle. Now, after examining David's computer, they found he had performed several searches online recently for how to burn a body.
Oh my gosh.
And he had searched for how bodies were disposed of on the TV show Dexter. There was something else found on the shovel. It was a bloody handprint that didn't belong to David or Nicole. They realized, oh, someone else is definitely involved in this.
Yeah.
And they find prints that also matched that handprint on a bleach container found in the backseat of David's car. So when they discover these prints, they actually find the owner of them very easily because they belonged to someone David had actually mentioned. And it was another Virginia Tech freshman, 19-year-old Natalie Keepers. Police executed a search warrant for Natalie's dorm room as well. And it's there that they find a gray suitcase that's sounding some alarm bells for them. So they open it, and inside they find it has a blue gym bag with blood stains on it. So they open up the gym bag that was inside the suitcase, and inside of that, they find that minion blanket that belonged to Nicole that her mom said was missing out of her bedroom. She says that David had confessed that there was this 13-year-old girl he had met online and he had a relationship with. But come January 2016, he wasn't just afraid she was going to expose him for statutory rape. He was afraid she might actually be pregnant. So that's when Natalie and David started talking about ways to solve this problem. And they decided the only way was to kill the 13-year-old girl. So the night before Nicole disappeared, they started plotting. They went to a restaurant called Cookout and over some burgers and shakes, talked about how they would execute this plan.
This is crazy.
Though it takes 2 more years for David to go to trial. It is February 2018 when David finally gets his day in court. And the defense works really hard to try and pin a lot of the crime on Natalie Keepers by making this seem like it was her idea. Now, regardless of who pressured who, all of the evidence indicated that David was the one who committed the crime, which is why during his trial, David actually changed his plea from not guilty to no contest for those first-degree murder charges, and he was sentenced to 50 years in prison for his crime.
Okay.
And Natalie's lawyers argued that the only reason she participated in the discussion about killing Nicole was because she was afraid to lose her friendship with David. However, Natalie's trial played out a lot like David's did before he changed his plea. Psychological experts, a lot of disorders. There was one big reveal at Natalie's trial, though. The medical examiner testified that there was no evidence Nicole was pregnant when she died. Still, that didn't change the vicious nature of this crime. The jury took barely an hour to come back, and in the end, they found her guilty of being an accessory to murder, and she was given 40 years in prison for her role in Nicole Lovell's death. And honestly, that is the case of Nicole Lovell, but the motive actually makes no sense. I really do think that there's just something wrong in their brains. So there was no reason for her not to believe that he didn't love her or care about her, especially if there had been a physical connection. It's actually heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, that was the case, and we will see you next time with another one. I love it.
And I hate it.
Goodbye.